Welcome to the New School of Marketing podcast, the place for smart, simple strategies that will amplify your business results. Sharing practical tips, insider knowledge, and actionable advice because marketing is something that every business owner can do. Now, let's get started. Introducing your host, Bianca McKenzie, mum, lover of snow sports, camping, horse riding, and in-demand launch strategist and Facebook advertising knowledge bank.
Hey, welcome to the New School of Marketing podcast. So excited to have you here. Wow, where did time go? It is May. How did we get to May? It's incredible how fast time goes. And gosh, this morning was such a super cold morning. Beautiful though, like grass all frosty, and the sun's shining now, which is really good, but it's so cold. Anyway, as we battle down the hatches for Tassie winter, the world still goes on, right? Social media still happens. So that's what I want to talk about today, about growing your business without posting on social media. Well, not social media, Instagram in particular. Because you know what? Social media is a hungry, hungry beast and it constantly needs feeding. At least that's how I see it. I have long had a love-hate relationship with social media because on one hand, I love it because it's a tool to get in front of people, to build authority, and to generally be visible in your business. On the other hand, though, I hate being at the mercy of the algorithm with posts not being seen by anyone who, explicitly stated that they do want to see my content. Plus the millions of algorithm changes and updates, which means that you finally, have the hang of it and your content gets seen, and then they change it all over again and kind of have to start again. Not to mention the hours it takes to put out content and to keep feeding and feeding and feeding it. So I'm always thinking and looking for ways to be more strategic in how I market my business and how I can help my clients market their business. So one of the things that I do is really make sure to leverage the social content that that my clients put out there. And I do that by giving it some ad spend. So I use it to build up their audience, to build up trust with their audience, to position them as an authority. And in return, this client attraction strategy means that we get a larger audience to retarget when it's like launch time and things like that. And often the cost per lead for this warmed up audience is often much lower. So it's a bit of a win-win, really. I mean, if you're spending all this time creating content, you want it to be seen, right? And I have found that a few advertising dollars makes it go much further. So that's a really good thing. Using it strategically, putting some ads dollars behind it. So this works really well for my clients that are actually happy to create content for Instagram and Facebook. But what if you don't really want to be spending all of your time feeding the feed? And what if you don't even need to? Because I think, and this is my opinion, right? Some businesses really don't need to be on Instagram, constantly feeding it. There's absolutely no strategic benefit for them. And a lot of them might be wasting their time. Hear me out, though. Hear me out. There are certain businesses that, in my opinion, don't really need to be on Instagram, at least not daily or even weekly. But this is the thing. The platform thrives on frequent content. That's why I keep talking about feeding the feed. And it doesn't do well on, long periods of silence most of the time. And I really don't think that some businesses need to be on Instagram to be successful. So firstly, anyone thinking of creating an Instagram account needs to think about where their target audience spend their time. Are they actually on Instagram? Or are you going to be on Instagram just because you feel like you should be, because everyone is? Is your audience there? Really, that's what you need to think about. So when I think of all the businesses, like all the different businesses that are out there, I can think of quite a few that I don't think need an Instagram presence. like businesses like, trades, for example, plumbers, electricians, gardeners, cleaners. Doesn't mean that, they can't benefit from it, but do they really need it? I don't know. For example, stores like supermarkets or corner stores or niche stores, like a pool supply store. Things like non-visual services like solar installations, roof repairs, pool cleaners, tree removal, lawyers, accountants, bookkeepers. I don't think that they need to be on Instagram. Sure, if their absolute ideal client, ideal target audience is on Instagram, they could benefit from it, but do they need to constantly feed the feed? See, I ask myself these questions all the time. When I work with clients, I look at, their overall business and I look at it and go, do you need to be on Instagram? And then the other question is, do you want to be on Instagram? There's two questions. Like, even if you feel like you need to be on Instagram, does it mean that you need to keep feeding the feed? So I ask myself these questions all the time. Yes, sure, they could be showing pictures of some of the jobs that they've done, but will people really book in an electrician based on their Instagram profile? Like, it's all these questions, right? Are you going to book in an electrician because you found them on Instagram and you looked at their profile? Well, look, I'm not an electrician, so I can't look at the account statistics, but I'm going to guess that most people book an electrician based on either a Google search, a recommendation from a friend, some local advertising, or maybe they've asked in a Facebook group. This is all the things that I've done in the past. I have not gone on Instagram and gone, oh, I'm going to book that electrician because they're posting all these exciting things on Instagram. So what if there was a middle ground? Like, what if there was a way to still be on Instagram if you decide to join the platform, but one where you don't constantly need to feed the feed? So this is where a static, evergreen Instagram feed comes in. An Instagram feed that only has 9 images that you never, well, I'm saying never, but like very rarely change. And the captions are written strategically, so it flows like a little sales funnel. In case you lost me there, let me explain. This is not a strategy for everyone, but a lot of businesses can use this. I'm using it for my own business as well as for my podcast feed, so the Instagram account for this podcast. So the basic thought behind it is that you post 9 images that create a grid. Like, if you post 9 images on Instagram, it's like a grid. And they will stay up for as long as you decide to use this strategy. You don't add any other images to your feed because then it disturbs the cohesiveness of your static grid. And you also write Instagram captions with your images that take your visitors on a bit of a journey. So in this way, it becomes a cohesive story that when someone visits your account, they can read like all of those captions, and it leads them to take the next step with you. So why would you want to do this? Why would you want to put your Instagram account on like this static, never changing feed? Firstly, you might want to do this because you're exhausted from the Instagram hamster wheel, like going around and around. Constantly creating content is tiring, and sometimes it doesn't even give you results. So taking a more strategic approach and focusing your energy where it counts is always a good step to take, in my opinion. You're basically giving everyone everything upfront. By reading all of your 9 Instagram captions, your audience gets to know you, what you do, how to take the next step. So there's like no more disjointed posts, like none of that ad hoc, let's fling this up there and see what it does. Most people actually do not have a strategic approach to Instagram. Most people just post for the sake of posting, and a lot of people don't actually think about what they're posting. So by doing it this way, you lead them on a journey that actually makes sense. It's like, okay, what's the next step? What's the next step? And this strategy is not a set and forget strategy. It's not like you'll leave Instagram for good. Well, you can if you want, especially if your audience isn't really on Instagram. Like, you can literally put this up and not return to Instagram. But the idea behind this strategy is to focus your attention where it counts, which is by nurturing and strengthening connections. And you can do that by focusing on stories and reels. And you're like, okay, reels show up in the feed. They can. You can turn that feature off. So I still do reels. I just don't make them show up in the feed. So that's where connections are formed, in the reels and the stories, not on the feed. But if you were to create content for all of the different, options, you'd be feeding the feed, you'd be feeding your stories, you'd be feeding your reels. That's a lot. So what if one of those things can be put in a strategic evergreen grid and you can just focus on the other ones? Now, you might ask, what if your business relies on content creation? Well, it really depends on what type of content you create, and it also depends on the type of content that your audience consumes. So for my business, for example, I create content in the form of a podcast, this podcast, or sometimes a blog, which I also send to my email subscribers. So I still create content. I just do not do the content on social media. And I also do not repurpose my content in a way that I just put it onto all the different platforms. Every single platform needs to have its own strategy. Like, just simply posting from one platform to another platform generally doesn't get you results. So you're basically just wasting time and posting for the sake of posting. So, but how I create content, a podcast or a blog, and then sending it to my subscribers, I feel like I have way more control over my content that way. I can create longer and deeper content. And I also have a little bit more control over who sees it. Sure, it depends on who opens the emails and who listens to my podcast, but at least I'm not at the mercy of an algorithm hoping, fingers crossed, that people will see what I've posted. I can put some money behind this as well, make it go further. And I'm also not spreading myself thin by posting in all these different places, which takes up a lot of time, really. So, look, it's not for everyone. It also doesn't mean that you completely abandon Instagram unless you want to. If your audience spends time on Instagram, you can use your time better by focusing on the parts that build connection, which is stories and reels. Like I said, I haven't posted on Instagram for months, and I still have a lot of engagement through stories and reels. And I also now have more time to actually engage with other people's content, which has actually meant for me more connections in a way that I have attracted more people to work with me. And I haven't been pumping out content on Instagram. So I've changed that focus to actually engage with other people's content, and in that way build more connections. So how can you grow your business without posting on Instagram? It's a question that it might be worth asking. You can choose to not have an Instagram account at all, which is totally fine as well. Or you can get strategic about how you use Instagram without the need to feed the feed. The static evergreen Instagram feed isn't something new. It's not something I invented, but it has been around for a while and it works. I have I've seen multiple accounts and it just works. It's just nice not to have to constantly feed the feed, still have a presence. There's a strategic approach. And that's one of the biggest benefits, that it's a strategic approach. And if done well, it is written and designed like a mini sales funnel. And the best thing is that it saves you so much time. Plus, your Instagram account looks great, which is definitely a plus if you were posting ad hoc and sporadically. Now it looks all nice and fancy. Look, if you're curious to know more about this strategy or you want to try it on for yourself, my awesome copywriting friend, Jay Crisp Crow, and I have actually teamed up and we've created a resource for you. So Jay, the queen of words, has dubbed it KISS, which stands for Keep Instagram Socials Strategic, which I think is awesome. And in that program, we take you through the strategy for a static evergreen Instagram feed. Plus, we give you all of the resources to create your own. Jay has created copy templates for you, and they're super simple to use. She's basically done all of the writing for you. All you need to do is make it your own, or you can use it, as a bit of a, launch pad and start writing your own once you've figured out the strategy that we tell you and teach you. And I have created design templates for your grid so that you can easily adapt it with your brand colors, and it looks super professional and fancy when you put all of these 9 images together on your Instagram grid. I've done multiple templates for like different kind of businesses, so there's like heaps of choice. It'll save you tons of time thinking about what to post every week, because really, have a think about it. Do you need to keep feeding the feed? You might, but you might not. So that's what I want you to think about this. It's not for everyone, this strategy, but if you haven't posted for months, or if you have, been constantly worrying about what kind of content to post and you're just over it. This is where I got to. I'm just over it. Then it might be for you. If you're worrying about your Instagram account looking like a ghost town, this approach will definitely solve that problem for you. Okay, well, I will put all of the links in the show notes, so go check it out, and you can have a look at what the fuss is all about and how you can grow your business without posting on Instagram all the time. That is it for this week. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode. I hope it was helpful. I can't wait to share more marketing tips with you next week. And if you're ready to take your business to the next level with Facebook and Instagram advertising, make sure you visit newschoolofmarketing.com to download practical free resources, plus subscribe to the podcast and never miss an episode. I can't wait to go on this journey with you. Until next time, take care and market your business every day.